Welcome back to Big Riff Energy. It's episode 77. Today is Tuesday, July 30th. This has been the busiest season of this podcast by far. I've been running all over Texas, getting interviews, catching up with people. I interviewed Rodney from Devastation in his legendary record room. It's the highest concentration of recorded Big Riff history and memorabilia that I've ever seen. Check that one out. Then I ran to Austin to interview the legend Athanar for Midnight. That was a great show. The album discussion this episode is actually going to be Wraith, Fueled by Fear. They played second on this tour package that's on tour right now. Hell Witch, who was great, opened, and then Wraith as a WRAITH from Northwest Indiana. Honestly, stole the show. That might have been my favorite set that I've seen this year, right up there with Street Tombs. So I'll be talking about that record. Check out the interview with Athanar. It was great. It was a lot of fun. I think I might respect that dude and admire that dude as much as anybody I've ever met in this game. Just a relentless person. So yeah, I'm going to talk some more about the Laceration album too. I've been jamming it all week, and I feel like I didn't get to dive into that as much as I should have last episode because all the MMA talk. Going to talk about Grindcore. Somebody wrote in asking if I like Grindcore and what my favorite Grindcore albums are. I'm very picky with Grindcore, similar to how picky I am with black metal. But yes, there is some Grindcore with massive riff energy, so stick around for that. And I'm going to catch up with every fan question that's been backed up, as many of them as I can. Dude, I've been running around. I'm out here on the compound, flying solo. My wife's on a cruise in Italy and Greece with her mom and sister. Hey, Nicole, I hope you're not wasting time listening to this while you're in Greece and Italy, but if you are, hello. Yeah, a lot of responsibilities out here on the compound. Got 2 wild animals, plus all the actual natural wild animals running around, and running all over Texas with 3 ruptured discs, and one of them's torn, and I'm fucking holding myself together with duct tape at this point, but this is what we do, man. So, no editing, no visual editing or anything fancy or funny on this episode. It's going to be raw and real. Athanar recorded that last Midnight record in 2 nights, just blew right through it. So as a tribute to the man himself, I think I'm going to do something similar with this episode. But yeah, let me talk about Laceration. Laceration, i.e. Erode, was the album of discussion last episode, but I didn't really, I didn't dive into it as much as I wanted to. And I'm going to be talking to these guys, or one of these guys, coming up here soon. Jesus, man. Paul Bear's in town this week. Inner Arma's in town this week. It don't stop. I've been demoing Spirit Adrift stuff. Been having Spirit Adrift practice. There's shit going on. There's stuff going on. Other stuff going on that I'm not talking about. But yeah, I've been jamming this Laceration album solid this last week. I mean, really the last 3-4 weeks or so. But I got the vinyl last week, was waiting to record the last episode, like watching the mailbox. Of course, they're late the day I'm trying to do an episode. But dude, the thing I wanted to really mention about Laceration, and this album in particular, one of the very first death metal bands I ever got into is Malevolent Creation. I think the first death metal bands that I discovered all around the same time was like Early In Flames, Spiritual Healing by Death, In Their Darkened Shrines by Nile, which was a little bit much for me. I was young when that came out, and Malevolent Creation. And there's something about the first 2 Malevolent Creation records that I've never heard another band replicate, particularly Retribution. And I have to assume that some of that is due to Rob Barrett. Every band that Rob Barrett's been in, the band's better when he's in it. And every record that he plays on, if you look at the band's discography, the records that Rob's involved in are better. And there's just he's real into New York hardcore. So his riffs have this just like a groove and it's mean. It's like really, really mean, but it grooves. And it's just like the best head banging mosh parts, but they're clever. So I'm sure that Rob Barrett has a lot to do with why Retribution by Malevolent Creation is such a great record. I haven't really heard anything, including older stuff, that has this like specific kind of savagery. And it's I think it has something to do with the vocal cadence and how it's syncing up with the blast beats on the drums. And it's like real fast and real mid-range. And he's spitting lyrics out like a million miles an hour, but you can understand him. Brett Hoffman's my favorite death metal vocalist, period, ever. I've said that many, many times on this podcast. This Laceration record, it's not ripping Malevolent Creation off or anything like that, but it gives me this, when I listen to Retribution, I get this like surge of like, it's not anger in a bad way. It's not hatred in a bad way. It's not ruining my day. It's like, it's good, like lifting weight music or like hitting the heavy bag. Like it gives me adrenaline or something. You listen to a song like Slaughter of Innocence when he's like, die motherfucker. And this Laceration record gives me that same like, ugh. And another sort of insider story about Retribution, the Malevolent Creation record, at some point when I was living in Phoenix, Alex Marquez, who drummed on Retribution, moved to Phoenix, and we hung out a couple of times. We hung out when I was on tour with Cannibal, and then we hung out later. Rob Barrett was going on like a road trip with his wife, and they came through Phoenix, and him and some of his old buddies like did a cover set. They covered Judas Priest and Dio and all this shit, but Alex Marquez was drumming. And so we were chatting, and Rob was just like putting respect on him. He's like, dude, we had like this many days, 2-3 days planned out for drums for the Retribution album, you know, and they got everything set up. And Alex Marquez, who's a beast, like big old school East Coast, like Cuban dude, beast, he blasted through those drum tracks in like half a day. Go back and listen to that. There's no quantizing, there's no fixing, there's no editing. This crazy son of a bitch like play that whole record, track the drums how you hear him on the record in like half a day. He did it so fast that they were like, shit, we need to like, we got time to kill because we allocated this much time for drums. So then from what I understand, I hope I'm remembering this correctly, he got the drums done so fast for the original material that they ended up doing a couple covers because they just needed to get their money's worth, you know. There's no fixing. Because if you listen to Retribution, when it's blasting, you can tell it's a human. It's not perfect. It's getting off and then back on and off and back on. And it's minor, but it's that human struggle that makes it so exciting. It makes you want to punch through a brick wall when you hear it, you know. When he's doing crazy double kick stuff, you might hear the left foot get a little, maybe his right foot is stronger than his left foot because he's right-handed and he's a right-footed drummer. So you can hear that slight discrepancy. They haven't sound replaced all those kicks with samples. They haven't quantized it, made it perfect to a metronome. Sulfur English, the Inter Arma album, there's a song where TJ's doing double kick for fucking like 7 minutes or something. And at a certain point, you can almost sort of feel him getting like a little bit tired, and you hear the left foot, like it's just losing just a little bit. It's not wimpy, but it's just human. And then he gets back on, and it's like, oh shit, he's back on. Like you can feel him like, oh shit, get his second win, you know? And the drumming on this Laceration record is a lot like that. It's the blasting like gets a little bit off and then back on. And, you know, what they have going for them that kind of like elevates them above something like early Malevolent Creation is the lead guitar stuff. It's a lot of like double tracked / harmonized, you know, some of the guitar solos will be double tracked the whole time. You don't even know they're double tracked. until it goes into a harmony. And you're like, oh shit, there's the other guitar track. And then it goes back and into unison again. So sort of more like an Andy LaRocque, like King Diamond, 80s, like traditional metal kind of thing. The vocals are pretty unique. They're not reminiscent of Brett Hoffman. It almost reminds me more of something like Martin from Asphyx or, Pestilence, Early Death, something like that. But they're unique. It doesn't sound exactly like any of those guys. So guys, I cannot stress enough, if you like death metal, just buy this record. You can listen to it first, but I guarantee you, if you like actual death metal for the music, you will like this record. It's sick from start to finish. I love it so much. And shout out to Laceration. Thanks for hitting me up, guys. I can't wait to talk to you. So be looking out for that interview. Yeah, great record. Laceration, Erode. No one is giving me a kickback for this. Nobody's paying me for this or anything like that. I just love it. And this show's all about like amplifying the real stuff. So go to 20buckspin.com and pick that one up. The actual album of discussion today, Wraith, Wraith, from, in their own description, Northwest Indiana, Parks and Rec territory. 1 second. This episode of Big Riff Energy is brought to you by Pull the Plug Patches. Guys, I could not be more psyched that Pull the Plug is the first official sponsor of Big Riff Energy. I've had several companies reach out to me trying to sponsor this podcast, and I've turned them down because I'm not buying what they're selling. I love Pull the Plug so much that I reached out to them to see if they would be a sponsor. Both as a fan of underground metal merchandise and a person in a band creating metal merchandise, it doesn't get better than Pull the Plug. We've done several patches with them, Curse of Conception patches, Enlighten Eternity patches. We got more coming. Nobody makes higher quality patches, enamel pins, that sort of thing. After dominating the patch game, these guys went on to make some of the best t-shirts and long sleeves that are out there. You see I'm rocking the Slayer South of Heaven long sleeve. Also had to grab the Thin Lizzy Jailbreak long sleeve. Front prints, unique prints on both sleeves, back prints, some of the highest quality prints I've had on any piece of merch. The best part of Pull the Plug is that all their merch is officially licensed. So Pull the Plug is making their money, the bands are making their money, the fans are getting the highest quality possible merchandise. Everybody wins. I love working with the owner, Simon. He is a real underground metal fanatic. He supports metal bands. He supports the metal scene and the metal community. He's highly involved in it. So go to pulltheplugpatches.com, pick something up. If you feel so inclined, leave him a note that Big Riff Energy sent you. And thank you to Pull the Plug and Simon for sponsoring Big Riff Energy. Back to the show. I'm so out of it. I had to make sure I was actually recording. Yeah, these guys played third. There was a local last night, and I felt kind of rough for them because the room was kind of like halfway empty as they started their set. But like one or two songs in, Come and Take It was like full. And they had like a circle pit going the whole time. I mean, as soon as they started playing, I was like, the first thing that came to mind is like, this is the most devoid of bullshit thrash I've heard in a long time. And then funny enough, I went to their Instagram while they were playing just to see remind myself where they were from and everything. And their bio is literally like, no bullshit, 100% no bullshit thrash metal or something like that. So if that's your mission, you're succeeding, because that's literally within the first 2-3 songs, I'm like, there's not 1 second of this that is not without total purpose and aggression. And I like the record a lot, but go see them live. Go see them live. The vocal production on the record is not exactly my taste. It's not the vocals themselves, I don't think, but the production, it sounds like there's maybe a little bit of added distortion and or delay and or reverb. That's like a very specific sound that's used in a lot of black, and like if you think about like Skeleton Witch or a band like that, I would be curious to hear it with a more straightforward vocal production, because live I thought the vocals were killer. Yeah, the set list last night, every second of every song was like drawing from the most straightforward mosh and two-stepping parts of like Ride the Lightning, Bonded by Blood, and maybe Rain and Blood, or like Peace Cell. It was just, but only the mosh parts and headbanger, like break your neck fast headbanging parts, or like mid-tempo beat the hell out of everybody around you parts. It was a whole entire set. The dude kept the between song banner to like a absolute minimum. Everything was timed just right. I mean, it was tight. Pro, just blew me away, honestly. And I dig the record a lot, but again, go see them live. The record, to me, it kind of has two distinct sounds that it's drawing from. The one that really works for me is the one I just mentioned, the early thrash stuff. Just like think about the chug riffs and like Disposable Heroes, the chug riffs in Raining Blood, the chug riffs in Bonded by Blood, that stuff. And it's just no like fat or filler or transitional parts or anything. Like every part is just a mosh part. So that's kind of one element of the sound. The other element of the sound that's more represented on the record than it was in the live set is sort of like more speed metal, new wave of British heavy metal influenced kind of speed metal. So maybe like early Sodom and Creator, but with a little bit of that like Motorhead or like Diamond Head. You're not playing power chords, but you're playing like the dyad of like the fifth and the octave of the power chord. That might not make sense to anybody, but think about like Diamond Head, or like Motorhead, Ace of Spades, and the vocals again are kind of like blackened thrash, not really singing, but sort of like a growly, screamy thing, kind of similar to Skeleton Witch. So I highly recommend checking out the new Wraith album, Fueled by Fear. I also have a pinched nerve in my neck, which I got doing physical therapy for my spine. So yeah, holding her together with duct tape. Yeah, great band, man. Yeah, I noticed they're from Northern Indiana, and all the dudes in the band, first person they thank are their wives, with the exception of one dude who thanked his girlfriend. This is like if Ron Swanson was a thrash band. There's just not 1 second where they can tolerate any kind of bullshit or fucking around. Northwest Indiana, Ron Swanson approved, grown ass fucking man, big riff energy. If anybody from Wraith is listening, or if you know how to get a hold of anybody from Wraith, hit me up. I would love to talk to you guys and have you on here. I was super duper impressed by the live set, and I love the record. Classic song titles, album artwork, everything. Great stuff, man. Yeah, for fans of Skeleton Witch, Ron Swanson, Enforced, Power Trip, if we're talking about more contemporary stuff, Old Exodus, Nuclear Assault, only the dumbest parts of Master of Puppets. If you like Midnight and shit like that, you probably like it. Yep. Wraith. Check it out now. Funk Soul Brothers. Yeah. Okay, fan mail. God damn. Got the frantic energy over here. Okay, I want to congratulate an anonymous fan for writing in, anonymous listener, I'll say, for writing in and telling me that he is 1 year sober. I get a lot of emails from people, and man, I'm coming up on 10 years, so I've got 9, as a lot of my buddies would say. And in the last, 9.5 years, I've talked to a shitload of people about getting sober. Which I don't preach, I'm not supposed to preach about it. I have no interest in preaching about it. If drugs and alcohol make your life better, then fucking do them. Because for a long time, they made my life a whole lot better. So there's no judgment. I don't give a shit if you're sober or not. If drugs and alcohol are making your life worse and, you feel like you need help making your life not as shitty, then I'm here. And I've talked to a lot of people about it over the past 9.5 years. 95% of people think that they want to get sober and then talk to somebody that's been sober for a long time and ask them how they did it. And the sober person will tell them how they did it and they decide they don't want to do it, which is totally fucking cool. Again, no judgment, man. I don't give a shit if you're sober or not. But this guy who wrote me sounded like he really needed to be sober. And it's fucking insane when I won't hear from somebody for a while. They write me back and they're like, hey, I'm a year sober. It's like, it's corny, man. I didn't want this podcast to be anything. I started this podcast to be completely fucking self-serving, as most people do. I was trying to promote my band and the record that we were making. And I didn't want this to be anything. I just want to write songs and play songs and record them and play shows that are cool and hang out in the fucking woods with my dogs and mind my own business. But this turned into like its whole thing separate of like bands that I play in and stuff like that. And to hear from you and to hear that you got a year sober and that me writing a fucking email or talking about whatever, talking about death metal records or whatever, it was like a thing that helped you do that. That means more to me than anything I can imagine. So, yeah, shout out. I'm going to leave you anonymous, dude, but thank you so much for the email. And it's not shit for me to take 5 minutes to write you an email if you need help with something, or if you have a question, just some stupid question, whatever. Write me an email, bigriffenergy@gmail.com. I'm trying to fucking revive the old school spirit of what the metal and weirdo extreme music community was when it started, which was people having to take the time of writing each other letters. Max Cavalera writing letters to Chuck from Death. Chuck from Death writing letters to Chris from Autopsy on the West Coast. Like, this, to me, if I'm doing my job, is like a modern version of that. So please don't hesitate to write bigriffenergy@gmail.com. Don't be embarrassed. Don't think I'm going to judge you. Nothing, whatever. Just write me, man. And if you don't want me to read it on here, I won't. If you do, I might, if I could shut the fuck up long enough to get through these emails. All right. Congrats to you, man. I'm glad to hear it. Anders, thanks for the support. Anders didn't have a question, but I wanted to shout you out, man. Thank you for, supporting the podcast. Dude, any money that I make on here, I invest it straight back into the podcast. It's the same shit I've done with every band I've ever been in. I just keep investing in myself and investing in you guys, and whether that's going to shows and buying records that I could be a bum and fucking probably get for free. I don't want to do that because I want to put my money where my mouth is. So, for example, Anders, the money you sent me, I went and bought this Wraith record so that I could talk about how great it is and how great they are, so that now you guys have a new band to listen to, and we can sort of fight back a little bit at the erosion of actual cool shit in this world that's going on 24 hours a day. So thanks, man. Marcus. Hey, Nate, I listened to your latest episode on Swagger driving to a Muay Thai class yesterday and finished my workout with some shin conditioning on the heavy bag. Yeah, I got an aqua bag, which is basically just like a buoy that floats in the ocean. Fill it up with water. It's hanging in the garage. And when my back is in okay condition, I kick the fucking shit out of that thing 100 times each leg every day if I can. Because a couple years ago when I was training with my boy Champ, I couldn't kick anything without crying about it. And now I don't know if the nerves are dead or the bones are calcified or what, but it's It's a lot of fun, man. It feels good. It's good to listen to Retribution by Malevolent Creation and kick that bag 100 times. Okay. I usually go without headphones, but this time I threw on Nails. You Will Never Be One of Us. Suffice to say, it was a fitting soundtrack to The Punishment. Okay, here we go. Grindcore. The kids call Nails like power violence or some shit, but I guess, they qualify as grindcore, grind something. Kind of their own deal, man. What are your thoughts on grind as a style? Which big riffers don't let speed get in the way of size? What are your favorite grind records? I know you plugged Struck by Lightning a few weeks back, and that record rips. I love, dude, that True Predation. I wouldn't count that as grindcore, but whatever that is, to me, that's one of the most pissed off records ever made. I love it so much. Personally, this is Marcus talking. Personally, I'd have to go with Terrorizer, World Downfall, Pig Destroyer, Book Burner, Napalm Death, Utilitarian, Noisem, Cease to Exist, and the aforementioned Nails record. Can't wait for the new one. Good luck with those demos, dude. Thanks. Yeah. I'm writing some big ass riffs. I'm just stripping everything down. Some of these riffs I'm writing are 3 notes. Black Sabbath, Paranoid style. Exodus, Bonded by Blood style. Yeah, I like all those records. You know what? You mentioned Utilitarian. That's one of my favorite Napalm Death records. Like, I feel like that period right there, mid 2000s going into the 2010s, was like a high point of Napalm Death's catalog. Here's what I'm going to say. World Downfall is the be all end all. It doesn't get any better than that. I love that record so much. Like I said earlier, I don't really love grindcore by and large. I'm super duper duper picky with it. I feel like for a lot of people, it's just an excuse to not learn how to play an instrument or write a song. But the grindcore bands that are great are great. That's the best. That's the best. If you don't think you like grindcore and you want to get into it, Terrorizer, World Downfall. My favorite grindcore band, if you can call them that, Soylent Green from New Orleans. Tommy Buckley from Crowbar on drums, and Brian from I Hate God on guitar, and Ben Falgu from, I hope I said that right, Cajun, Ben Falgu from Goat Whore on vocals. Yeah, check out the records by Soylent Green, Sewn Mouth Secrets, Deleted Symphony for the Beaten Down, is that what it's called? And Confrontation. I got to see those guys when I was 17, and they blew my mind. And that's the same show I met Sonny from Necrot, Kane's Ballroom in Tulsa. Soylent Green is one of the craziest, weirdest, extreme bands ever. They have grindcore parts, but they also have like New Orleans jazz parts. It's really weird stuff. They also have big old Black Sabbath-y I Hate God riffs. It is Brian Patton, after all. You probably saw me rocking the Soylent Green shirt in the Athanar episode. They're back. They're playing again. They've been sort of on hiatus for a while. I think my friend Mercedes and I might have been partially responsible getting them back together, which is cool. If you are a Soylent Green fan, I'm not going to give out privileged info, but I am going to say pay attention to Relapse Records in the upcoming months, and you are going to be very, very, very excited. That's all I'm saying. Another great grindcore record, if you can count it, Repulsion Horrified, obviously. Napalm Death, Scum, classic, but Utilitarian might be my favorite Napalm Death record. That thing just, I like good production. It doesn't have to be sparkly and stuff, but that thing don't stop, man. And I think Barney in particular on Utilitarian, it's the most savage sounds ever to come out of a human being. I don't care about all this metalcore stuff. Like, this is a guy that's just, it's not about technique. It's not about learning how to vocal fry and stuff. He's just like screaming his guts out, and it's loud and angry and aggressive. That dude, Utilitarian, Barney from Napalm Death, that is top 10 extreme metal vocal performances of all time. Up there with Retribution by Malevolent Creation. I'm going to tell a story. I guess it could be the Vault of Insane Stories, but I'm not going to edit that goofy thing into the Vault of Insane Stories. wonder I'll do that just myself. So there was a place in Tempe. What the fuck was this place called? Martini? No. Anybody in Tempe will know what I'm talking about. It was a weird ass like Cancun patio kind of vibe, and Napalm Death played there. The place got shut down because Bar Rescue came and did like the TV show Bar Rescue, where they come in and fix shitty bars. They came, did the show, and the producers of Bar Rescue never did the appropriate stuff to renew or apply for the live performance. What do you call it? God, I can't think of the word. The permit. So they neglected to like renew the live performance permit, and the place got shut down. Here's another reason why they got shut down. We went to see Napalm Death. Speaking of drinking, this is in the old days. So there's a bar. There's two bars. It's like a patio, douchey Cancun frat boy vibe. Wish I could remember the name of the place. Full of Hell played there, and Hedonist played there. Weird. But yeah, Napalm Death is playing. There's a bar with bartenders there serving people drinks. There's another bar me and my friends are hanging out at, and there's nobody there working it. It's like a rectangular open bar, like in the middle of the floor on this outdoor patio. We look, and it's got like the troughs full of ice all the way around, and they're all full of tall boys. So we start to realize that we can just drink these tall boys for free. So we're like, we're leaning. Yeah. No wonder Bar Rescue showed up. We're like leaning over the bar, grabbing handfuls of tall boys, passing them around. Drank a lot of them. And then Napalm Death went on, and I was in the front row. And as soon as I think they opened with Errors in the Signal. Is that the first real song from Utilitarian? And I felt like a bomb blew up. Like I got moved probably 20 feet from where I was initially standing, and I don't even know how it happened. And I looked down, and I have one shoe on. I'm like, what the fuck just happened? And I wasn't hurt or anything. I just got like teleported through the crowd. And yeah, watched Napalm Death with one shoe. And then the show was over. Everybody cleared out. I'm looking around the bar for my shoe. I'm asking if anybody found a shoe. Nobody did. Shit. So then I'm going to Casey Moore's in Tempe, which is where I met my wife. Great outdoor patio, Irish pub. But I have one shoe on, and they're pretty tight with the security letting people in and stuff like that. I'm wasted too. I like clearly wasted with one shoe on. That's kind of going to be difficult to mask this situation from the door guy. So I get to Casey Moore's. My girlfriend at the time, who's now my wife, meets me there. I remember like walking from the parking lot to the door guy, trying to like one leg is an inch shorter than the other one because I don't have a shoe on. And so I'm trying to like lower the other side of my body and walk like evenly. And I'm approaching the door guy of the outdoor patio, and I'm like, just make eye contact with this fool. And I'm like making a great effort to walk straight, make eye contact with the guy. He lets me in. All right, cool. I go into Casey's with one fucking shoe on. And this is like a college sort of nice place, right? Sit down, and I'm telling everybody what happened at the Napalm Death show, how I lost my shoe. And we're all talking about wondering where the damn shoe is and this and that. And then the other entrance, I have a view of the entire length of the outdoor bar. And through the other entrance comes the drummer of my band at the time, Jason Tomaszewski, the Creature. He comes in, he's got a shit-eating grin on his face. He makes eye contact with me all the way like 50 yards, 30, 40, 50 yards at the other end of this patio. We make eye contact. He's got a shit-eating grin. He raises his fist in the air, and he has my shoe in his hand. And he comes over to the table and gives me my shoe. That's one of my favorite show memories of all time. That was a great time. And yeah, I'm going to remember the name of that bar the second I get off of here. So I love Napalm Death. I'll see Napalm Death every single time I can. Insane live band. Nasum is a great grindcore band, one of the best. Rotten Sound, I do love Pig Destroyer. You mentioned them. I like the early Pig Destroyer a lot. They were one of those bands that was coming up on Relapse when I was like getting into heavy music. So I got a soft spot for them. My favorite Pig Destroyer record is actually Phantom Limb. That song Loathsome is my favorite thing they've ever done. It's got the John Baisley art. I love that album. And man, unfortunately, the first time I saw them, and I think only time, was at Scion Rockfest on my 21st birthday in Atlanta, and they were terrible. No disrespect, but it was a letdown. But I do love that band. Genghis Tron, the old stuff is like cyber grind, I guess. It's like hipster grind, but I like it a lot. I think it's a little different and weird, you know. And Brutal Truth. Yeah, so World Downfall by Terrorizers, Soylent Green, Repulsion, Napalm Death, Nasum, Rotten Sound, Pig Destroyer, Genghis Tron, Brutal Truth. That's 9. And I'll leave her there, man. That's all I can think of right now. Renee. Oh boy, 30 minutes in. Not too bad. Still enjoying your podcast. I'm a day oneer. I know you are, brother. And you're getting better at this podcasting thing. The interviews, reviews, top list, and your honesty, that's the best part of you. Thanks, man. You have to like consider the possibility that I'm a dude on the internet full of shit. I can tell you I'm not, but you know, as I've mentioned before, there's some fucking hypocrites and false advertising type of people out here. But yeah, I mean, I can tell you I'm honest all day, but you should ask other people who know me, and maybe you will find out for sure. But thanks. Anyways, I agree completely about what you spoke about referring to the mafia music industry. Yesterday, I was listening to another pod, and they were talking about the Taylor Swift deal she made with Universal. It was dark and shady, how it all went down. Can you maybe one day give out a plan and what to do to have a chance in the industry in a future episode? Anyway, thanks for your relentless efforts to increase the Riff energy into the world. Can't wait for your next album. A couple things in here. Yeah, I actually really like Taylor Swift's music a lot for what it is. It's great songs. That song that she did with Post Malone is really good, really catchy. It does remind me a little bit of a song from the Drive soundtrack, that movie with Ryan Gosling. Great movie. I think the song's called Real Hero, Real Human Being, something like that. A Real Human Being. They're very similar, very similar. But yeah, I don't. Taylor like was getting fucked over by a record label, so she probably had a clause in her contract that after a certain amount of time she could re-record those songs. So she took that shit to heart and re-recorded literally everything, which is that is a fucking baller move, man. The label that put out the Wraith album also put out a couple of early Spirit Adrift releases. And I was conflicted on whether I want to even buy this or not. It's a conflicting situation because my friend Steve at that label is a great guy. The co-owner guy is just a fucking slug of a nothing, sorry ass person. But there's a clause in our contract that after 5 years, I can re-record all those songs. So if I ever feel like doing it, I'm going to do that too. Okay, you're asking about a plan. I'll mention this on the side too. I've helped some people out with that fucking shithead. If anybody is feeling mistreated by you-know-who at Prosthetic Records, feel free to reach out to me, bigriffenergy@gmail.com, because I had a pretty successful psychological war campaign against this dude and was able to get out of that contract. Also, there's places on the internet that will tell you where people live. Of course, I'm not going to tell you where anybody lives because I'm not sure that that's legal or whatever. I mean, that's a gray area, but there's places on the internet, not me, that will tell you where people live. Because I hear that this dude is still fucking bands over and people aren't getting paid. And so you can go on the internet and find out where he lives. Take it from me. I'll leave it I'll leave it there. Okay. What was your Renee's question? Can you maybe one day give out a plan and what to do to have a chance in the industry in a future episode. Yeah. So if you watch Cliff 'Em All, the Metallica VHS, got early footage of like when Mustaine was still in the band, and they're just fucking shithead kids, and they're getting interviewed by some chick. And she's like, "What do you guys have for advice for young kids wanting to start a band?" And Mustaine goes, "Quit." And when I was a kid, I was like, damn, that's kind of fucked up. And I've thought about that on a pretty regular basis for the rest of my life, you know? And I don't know if he meant to be profound, but especially in the context of the world today, it's kind of profound. So my answer here might seem depressing or demoralizing at first, but just stick with me. Do not start a band or a podcast or anything hoping to have a chance in the industry. For one thing, you don't even want to be involved in the industry. Believe me, there's no like material goal or experiential goal. By that, I mean an experience like playing Hellfest or touring with a band you love. There's none of that shit that's worth the compromising of yourself that you will have to do to play these little weak ass games with people to like have those experiences or have material success or get Instagram likes or something like that. I'm giving you a shortcut. It takes people 10, 20, 30 years sometimes to figure that out. Sometimes they die before they figure it out. Sometimes they fucking literally kill themselves before they figure it out. Sometimes they fuck up their entire lives before they figure that out. So I've been blessed to have dudes older than me that have a lot of experience that, dude, I mean, I came up in Arkansas with guys that were on the fucking Mortal Kombat soundtrack in the 90s who are in the movie playing on the catwalk in the club, like in the first scene. So picking their brains, I learned a lot. Talking to guys like Jimmy Bauer, Athanar from Midnight, Matt Harvey. I want to shout out Matt Harvey from Exhumed, who produced and recorded the Laceration record. Matt gave me, I'm going to keep it between us, but that guy gave me some of the best advice about quote unquote the industry that I've ever gotten. And I knew it was true at the time. I knew he knew what he was talking about because he's a smart guy. He's a real one, has a ton of experience with the good, bad, and the ugly of this music thing. But dude, I'm going to try to distill some of that and pass it to you now. You're asking on behalf of your friend. Do it because you want to do it. Do it because you love it, period. And don't ever even think for a second about, am I going to get in Decibel magazine? Am I going to get on this festival? Am I going to get on this tour? Am I going to get on this label? That it's good to have goals, I guess. I'm not sure now it even is good to have goals. It seems just seems to be more and more impossible, you know. And take it from somebody who's like very goal driven and very goal oriented and maniacal work ethic to the point that for a while there it was sort of ruining my life, right? It's worth it now, I guess, but only because I've learned to appreciate every day of life and just focus on that. Appreciate the fact that I'm writing a song because it's what I love to do. Not I'm writing a song because I want to get on the cover of Decibel. Not I'm writing a song because I want to be on 20 Bucks Spin or Relapse or whatever. I mean, I will say it's a whole lot easier to say that once you've done those things. I acknowledge that. But I'm fucking telling you, the end goal after you've done those things is what I'm talking about now, which is to get rid of all that shit. And honestly, I think there's something magical about making stuff without those intentions. Because the early Spirit Adrift stuff, I did it for me. That's it. Every other band I was in, there was some goal. Like, I want to play at this place or play this show or get on this label. Spirit Adrift was the very first time that I had none of those thoughts in mind. I can tell you Midnight was started the same way. I can tell you Gatecreeper was started the same way. I can tell you Orange Goblin was started the same way. Metallica, although Lars, I think he probably has that maniacal overdrive work, goal-oriented, psycho thing. Do it for you because you love it, period. Fuck the industry. The industry is just people. There's cool people. There's a whole lot of shitty, false people who fucking suck and they only serve themselves, and they really legitimately don't have the slightest interest in like bettering the world or even bettering this little isolated world that we're in, So just do it because you love it, man. Or just listen to Dave Mustaine, who said, quit. Mustaine's the only guy I've ever been in the physical presence of who intimidated me. Literally the only one. I'll tell that story sometime. But he's a Spirit Adrift fan, so it's all good. He was nice, but he was fucking... I had to get through a gauntlet of intimidation first. Renee... Oh, dude, second question. All right. I guess Renee was then listening to Spectral Savior the next day. What was your inspiration for Spectral Savior? I ask because I can sense some deep feeling when you sang the part, Who Will Save Me? He's talking about the Spirit Adrift song, Spectral Savior from Curse of Conception, second full length. We're going to bring that song back. The pentagram riff in that song, live, without fail, everyone in the crowd starts headbanging. And it's just weird how you write certain parts you think people are really going to react to. You write others that you're just like, yeah, that's cool, that's groovy. And then that's the one that it's just like an involuntary response from the crowd every time we play that. Yeah, I like that song. That song, a lot of Curse is like really, really, really heavy, real experiences. That song in particular, there's a lot of different stuff going on, but my mother died when I was 4 months old. And so I think I was 28 when we recorded Curse of Conception, I'm pretty sure. And I think she was 24 or 26. She was really young when she died. And I had a crazy conversation with my wife when I was at the end of my drinking, when I was like, fuck, insane. I literally had like paranoid schizophrenia by that time, was like drinking to the point of blacking out every day just so I didn't have seizures and shit. And I know that my wife and I had a conversation, but I can't remember what we said. But from that point forward, I had like some kind of newfound spiritual awareness or something. And I know that that's an instrumental thing in me not dying from the way I was living. That was like one of many seeds I got planted that kept me from dying from alcoholism, drug abuse. And is also intertwined with this thought of I'm older now than my own mother was forever. Like she will never be older than that age. And now I'm around and I'm older than she was. And that's a mind fuck. That was a mind fuck, man. So lyrically, that's kind of the subject matter there. I was watching a Joey Diaz podcast because much like me, Black Sabbath changed his life and his mom died when he was young. He was on acid when he found his mom's dead body in the kitchen. But he talked about losing a parent as a kid. And he said the rest of your life, it's like you're eating food that doesn't have any salt on it. It doesn't have any flavor, but that's your whole life. And so there's a line in that song, committed to a world no longer vivid or something like that. And that song sort of, I mean, there is a title track to Curse of Conception, but Spectral Savior is more kind of the mission statement of that record, which is like, what if I never wanted to be alive? You know, it's a curse to be alive. Like it's a, being alive is a condition that we have no say in, at least being born. I guess you have a say in taking yourself out, but I'm kind of more interested in like having every fucking possible reason as a human being to take yourself out, and not only not doing it, but figuring out how to have a great life and sort of maybe help other people around you not suffer as much. So that's kind of what that song's about. The last part of it, when it goes melodic, I was driving for Uber and listening to a lot of FM radio, and I heard that song Land Down Under by Men at Work, and I heard the chorus. It's the same chord progression as like Ghost, Square Hammer, and Tobias talks a lot about how that's the best chord progression for a chorus, and it's used in more songs than any other chord progression ever. And I was like, oh, that's something I haven't done, is that chord progression. How the fuck am I gonna like make that work in a super heavy doom metal song? And so that sort of became the goal. But yeah, there's like the Phantasm themes in there, the Halloween themes in there, Men at Work. That's a cool song. I like that song. That's one of my favorite Spirit Adrift songs. Okay, two more. David, Chilean metalhead, now living in Finland for over 10 years. I'm a big fan of Spirit Adrift and the podcast. I was born in 87. So I also started my journey into heavy music around the time when nu metal was a big thing on MTV and radio. But even as a teenager, I gravitated towards the classic old school stuff, which was a lot harder to find due to the lack of media coverage. I always thought nu metal was very phony. From the aesthetics to the music, it just sounded like a product to me. I was glad when it went out of fashion, although it seems to be making a big comeback now. Yikes. Yeah, nu metal fucking sucks, dude. And I'm not going to tell anybody they can't listen to it. If it brings you joy, then that's good. But you need to fucking grow up and develop as a goddamn human being so that you no longer like nu metal. No judgment. All due respect. Rampage Jackson always says, all due respect, and then says whatever the fuck he wants about people. So all due respect, nu metal fucking sucks. And if you like it, I do judge you. No judgment, all due respect. 2 decades later, I feel the same has happened in recent years with metalcore. The biggest festivals in Europe and metal magazines are pushing that crap all over the place. It seems to be the flavor of the month among younger fans. Yeah, but also like divorced, like grown up children with wife beaters on and shit. I don't really care about what others listen to, but when they start to put metalcore acts to headline metal festivals on top of classic bands, really gets on my nerves because I don't want to support that corporate shit. Is this David talking or me talking? I can't tell. I know it's all about the money and that promoters just want to maximize their profits by booking more trendy bands. Anyway, one day I was very bored, so I designed my dream festival lineup as if I was a promoter with an unlimited budget. Damn it, you're going to make me fucking edit something, dude. Okay. I'm going to do a signal to put David's festival lineup up here. Yeah, different days. First day is darker stuff. Second day is proggier. Big party will be on Saturday, including a killer set by Spirit Adrift, of course. Thank you. I was curious to hear what kind of bands you would put together if you had the chance to organize a 3-day fest like this. Hope you make it to Finland soon. Yeah, me too, man. Finland is fucking beautiful. I have Finnish DNA also, which came as a bit of a surprise. Let me, I'm going to look at your little festival thing here. Yeah, Merciful Fate, Tribulation, shit like that. Oh, Malachar Patton. First night on the first night. Second, Gojira Mastodon, Amorphous. Yeah. Other good stuff. And then third, Ghost, Lucifer, Hellas, Spirit Adrift, Spider God, Spell, Witch Hazel, Summerland. Yeah. I would put Eternal Champion on that last day too. Man, if I was going to do something similar, for sure, Merciful Fate, maybe Diamond Head, Metallica, Priest on that first day. Tribulation. I turned the radio on. There's a station out of Austin that plays like real actual metal all the time. When I was going to the midnight show, I turned the station on. I heard literally 1 second of a song and my brain went, that's Tribulation. And sure enough, it was Tribulation. That's hard to do, man. Their guitar tone, the vocal production, the heavy guitars, but then there's a clean twinkly stuff in there. The way it's mixed is like super pro. I fucking love Tribulation. That last EP was killer. I would put them on there. Man, I can't. I'm doing this on the fly. Second day, yeah, Mastodon. Second day, we're doing proggier. So, I don't know, dude. You have a good lineup here. You have a very good lineup. I would probably, okay, here's what I would do. I would do a death metal day. You don't really have a death metal day. So I would do, I'm curious to hear the new Blood Incantation. I'm curious. I like their early stuff a lot. So maybe have them on there playing like the first album and then the new album, if it's any good. We could do like a collab thing with the Helas dude, because I know he plays on the new one. Yeah, Necrot, Skeletal Remains, Laceration, Severus, Wraith might fit in good on that day. Maybe like Dismember for some old school stuff. Maybe Cannibal, Obituary. Who's somebody I've never seen, man? I've never seen Malevolent, but they're kind of like all over the place now. They got Darren from CKY playing guitar and singing, which actually is the best choice. If you don't know, look into that. He's the reason I know who Malevolent is. Dude, I can't do this shit on the spot. I would put Opeth on that second day, right? You don't have Opeth on the proggy day. I would make Opeth play like 3 sets. They could play every night. So first night could be Blackwater Park. Second night could be Deliverance and Damnation. Fuck, make these guys work. A lot of people like Ghost Reveries. I might go back to something earlier. My Arms, Your Hearse or something like that. I was going to say Dissection for one of those days, but that fool's dead. Trying to think of like black metal. I like that band Cloak. I would put them maybe on the first day. Yeah, Iron Maiden, Judas Priest, Metallica, Megadeth, whatever. I can't think of shit right now, dude. My death metal day. There you go. That's the bang for your buck right there. Where are my fan questions? Uno momento. I somehow lost my stuff here. Okay, last question, y'all. Thanks for sticking around. I'll be fully caught up after this. Matt, I'm a big fan. I love what you're doing. Here, I need to take a drink for this one. I'm a big fan, and I love what you're doing with the podcast and YouTube videos. Your massive passion for heavy music certainly shines, and that's badass. Thanks, man. I'm an old school metalhead, so I love talking about music almost as much as I enjoy listening to it. So it's awesome listening to your podcast at work. Really helps my 12-hour shift go quicker, so thank you. That's a real adult shift, bro. I saw you with Chemist at the High Dive in Denver a while back. I was unfamiliar with your band at the time, but I quickly became a fan. Bought all your records. Was that the True Brewing thing, possibly? I think at one point we played Denver more than we had played Phoenix, which is where we were based out of. We did True Brewing with like them, and no, I don't know if they played that. That was like Vastum. I would put Vastum on the death metal day, by the way. Eternal Champion Ash Borer, maybe? Okay. I saw you stand at the merch table before the show and had no idea who you were, or I definitely would have said hello and bought some merch. I had my daughter with me, and it was her first metal show. So yeah, Spirit Adrift and Chemist was her first experience with metal. Anyhow, I have a question about sobriety. My ritual for the last 20 years has been beers and metal records every Friday night after a long work week. I love it more than anything, honestly. I'm 46 now, and alcohol is not that agreeable with my body anymore. 5 or 6 beers, I typically have a headache the next day, and I can't stand headaches. So I decided to quit drinking altogether for 6 months. But listening to music on the weekends just wasn't the same without beers and that nice little buzz. I actually got to a point where I wasn't listening to records at all on the weekends. I have a massive record and CD collection that was just sitting there. I'd only listen to metal at the gym and work, so I started drinking again, but I keep it very minimal, like 3 beers. Then I'm done on Friday nights. Thankfully, I have the control to do that. I listened to an interview with you a few years ago, and you were talking about drinking whiskey, listening to Black Sabbath. When I was young, I was getting completely smashed every weekend, so I totally understand those times in life. I'm curious how being sober has affected your listening habits, or has it affected it at all? Sorry for the lengthy email. The new album kicks ass. Thanks for all your hard work. Take care, brother. Matt. Yeah, I sort of kind of addressed this earlier. If you can do that, then that's great. I'm going to be honest. I almost relate to somebody who's never drank more than I relate to somebody that can drink 3 beers. I just was never like the first time that I got actually drunk, I was like, I'm doing this for the rest of my life. I don't care. I know that it kills people. I know that this is probably how I'll die, but I don't fucking care. It was the best feeling I'd ever had in my life. And it remained that way for a long time, man. But I feel like my tolerance and stuff, like I looked at my genetic makeup, and it's like I was genetically engineered in a laboratory to drink more than anybody else on earth. And that's what I felt like, man. I in Arkansas, especially, I was to the point I'll be drinking with dudes that are like my boy Big Hands, rest in peace, man. Dudes that are literally like 250, 300 pounds, 6'5", and I'm drinking these motherfuckers under the table. And no disrespect to Big Hand, I mean, he acknowledged it, acknowledged as much, you know. I remember a day when I was 18 years old, when I was first like still living in the dorms in Arkansas for the brief period I was in college. You know what a half gallon is? It's not a fifth. It's not a liter. It has a handle on it. Therefore, they call it colloquially, it's referred to as a handle of Evan Williams. And I drank a half gallon of Evan Williams by myself. Probably weighed 155 pounds at the time. And there were also pharmaceuticals involved. And this went on constantly. It was just like, I don't do anything like a little bit. I don't do anything. Yeah, I'm going to have, you know what? You know, there would be nights where I'd be like, you know what? I'm going to have a couple beers and listen to Thin Lizzy. And then the next thing you know, it's like, I've drank enough hard alcohol to kill like 98% of normal folks. You know, I was at that point. And it worked for a while, man. And I loved, going and seeing like bluegrass bands all fucked up and going and seeing sludge bands. And I mentioned Scion Rockfest day after my 21st birthday. I was there, like had the flu. So I drank a whole bottle of Robitussin and a whole bottle of Evan Williams. And I would be lying if I said that wasn't like the most badass shit ever. Seeing U.S. Christmas and I'm on a different fucking planet. I'm on whatever planet they're on, you know, like that shit was awesome. But I was 21 years old, you know. I went so hard that like even hardcore alcoholics, I think if you compared where I was at 25, it's where a lot of hardcore alcohol, like just physically, it's where a lot of hardcore actual full-blown alcoholics are when they're like in their 50s. You know what I mean? So, I have no frame of reference to speak to you about drinking 3 beers and listening to metal whatsoever. Like I'm the wrong guy to talk to. Yeah, man, it was never that way for me. In fact, what I can tell you, I've mentioned this before, is there was a moment in my life, and I think I was 17 years old. I'd been listening to metal for 4 or 5 years by now. I'd heard a bunch of Black Sabbath. I heard Metallica, Slayer, all this shit, High on Fire. I was listening to Black Sabbath Sabotage, which Athanar from Midnight and I were just talking about. And I was listening to the song Thrill of It All, the chorus. Well, that's my story and I'm sticking to it 'cause I got no reason to lie. Yeah. That. And I remember thinking like, just thinking about aging, thinking about getting old. I've always had those thoughts, fear of like aging and death and how old am I going to be when my dog dies and when this person dies, you know, generalized anxiety disorder, they might call it. But I've listened to that and I just thought, man, no matter what happens, no matter where you go, what you do, like Nate Garrett at 17 years old will be fucking disgusted with you if you ever reach a point in life where you don't feel this way about this song and this album and this stuff. Like I remember having that intense, that's like, I had decided I wanted to do music when I heard Hendrix. And so like 12 years old. But that thing at 17 was when I gave myself 0 options, no choice, no chance of me doing anything else. And it was because of that song, Thrill of It All. I was just like, that was the only thing that made me feel that sort of rush of relief and belonging and joy and shit that whiskey did, you know? literally gave me the same effect as drugs. And you sort of lose your ability to achieve that with music and with drinking. I did. By the time I turned 25, 26, I was so devoid of any feelings whatsoever other than uncontrollable dread, anger, loathing, hatred, fear, paranoia. Like not wanting to live, not wanting to die. I remember one day, many days, but one in particular, desperately trying to force my mind and my body to experience something that wasn't complete and utter fucking torture, right? And so I put on Sabotage, Black Sabbath, felt absolutely nothing. And if I'm being honest, I think that saved my life. There was a lot of things that like stacked up to get me off of that path or whatever. But listening to Black Sabbath Sabotage and not feeling a fucking thing about it, no one else could tell me how fucked I was. I knew intellectually how fucked I was. But when I heard that album, that's been my favorite album since the first fucking time I heard it, and I didn't feel anything, there was an intellectual understanding of the fucking shape I was in became like a whole intuitive understanding in my heart and my soul, everything. That I was like, dude, you fucking betrayed that kid that told you to never stop loving this shit, you know? And yeah. So if you can drink 3 beers and listen to Sabotage and feel something, I'll say you're probably doing fine, man. But I don't know. Not for me anymore, dude. And actually how getting sober has affected my listening habits is I started listening to way more music and appreciating it way more and connecting with it way more. But I've probably drank about 1,000 times more whiskey than anybody you've ever met. So that's what happens. You start to not feel shit. And I'm glad that today even just Athanar saying the riff Symptom of the Universe. He just said Symptom of the Universe. I was like, it went through my mind. I got the little goosebumpy feeling like, fuck yeah, that's so badass. And I didn't feel that way at all at the end of my drinking. There was nothing on earth that could make me feel good, you know? But that's just me, man. I'm going to repeat myself. Anybody that gives a shit whether you're drinking beers or doing drugs or whatever is an asshole. It doesn't fucking matter. Like, if I don't want to drink, I just want to feel good. That's it. So if drinking beers and doing drugs and all kinds of crazy shit like that makes you feel good, as long as you're not hurting somebody or depriving them of their freedom to feel good, do it, man. Yeah, I support it big time. Good God. All right, so I'm fucking made it through, barely hanging on for dear life. UFC's coming on, so I'm going to get the hell off of here. Yeah, I'm going to be talking to Laceration here at some point. Somebody mentioned Nails earlier. I'm in communication with their publicist right now. Was going to talk to Todd a while back, actually, but he wanted to do it closer to the album. So hopefully that'll work out. I'm going to circle back on that and look for more interviews coming out soon. Like I said, Paul Bear and Inner Arma are in town this week. I don't want to bother them too much, but I would love to do something there. And other than that, man, I will try to be right here next week. Write me at bigriffenergy@gmail.com. Ugh. All right. Later.